Alright, I'm doing this video at work. Got my notes. My apologies for the background, but the title of this video is called Incorporating a Spike into My Testing. You might be wondering, what in the world is a spike? Well, before we track into my 2026 testing methodology, let's track back to what I was doing before. I was using frozen ice blocks to chop with knives to quantify how much the edge can resist the blows. The testing has evolved since then. The purpose was to transition from the controlled cut testing into more real-world expectations. It's rare for me to stick to my edge angle guides because my testing falls under the gauge R&R parameters. Plus, it's a journal of my findings, and the results are open to individual interpretation of the viewership of my content. Plus, I feel there are plenty of other testers who stick to that parameter for their specific testing style. The ice block itself would take 24 hours in my freezer before I would begin actually physically testing. I think it is still a good test, but I knew there was a better option out there. After brainstorming for a while, I decided to take a gamble on baby carrots. I can store them in the freezer for a month or so, and I have cut testing media ready at my fingertips. I did some experiments to see what cutting style would be used and how fast the edge blunts. With a sawing draw cutting motion, I can cover the entire edge. In combination with my sanding roll cutting, I think both medias provide a realistic feedback loop for what the knife steel can actually do. The first real experiment began with the Z12 Ultra Mule. On the Spyderco forum, Sal and me have a working relationship in which I receive samples to go through my gauntlet of testing. I received my Magnamax Mule and the Z12 Ultra from Spyderco free of charge. Future models might be free, might be discounted. At this point, I can't say for sure what will happen. My contact, her name was Julian, and she arranged for me to receive the Z12 Ultra Mule. Z12 Ultra is a unique steel from Zaps. I've never tested anything from Zaps, but the edge I received did 505 on my sanding roll cutting, followed by 580, then 610. The steel itself sharpened up like custom high-performance heat treat. The burr falls off so easily you might be able to just blow it off. At this point, I was curious about the composition and other alloys that are similar. My research led me to CPM 9V, CPM 10V, and K294. The K294, available in the Mule team, reached around 375 in my cut testing, and the Z12 Ultra is hitting 610. So I pulled out my portable Rockwell hardness tester to see what I could find. My portable hardness tester is there to complement my cut testing data and not take over. It helps me avoid redundancies when I have two samples at the same source reaching the same hardness levels. I got 64 HRC when I poked mine several times. My theory is that the edge is microfracturing during use, causing a jagged edge that allows the cut testing to continue. Is this phenomena visible with Catra testing? My sanding rolls are soft but abrasive media. I like to think warehouse working conditions. The ice block testing, now frozen carrots, would in theory prevent that. And since I have two models in the same format, similar compositions, similar hardness levels, figured a head-to-head binomial test was appropriate. What I did was 40 slices on my sanding roll, then 4 slices on the frozen carrot. I would alternate the carrot cuts between knives to ensure favoritism wouldn't exist. One cut with the K294, one cut with the Z12, one cut with the K294, another one, and so on, until I reached 4 cuts apiece, 8 total. This was the first time incorporating this newer method and served as a good learning opportunity. The goal is to continue to improve a little bit every day, every opportunity, whenever possible. Continual improvement is one of the healthiest addictions available. What I found was that after 4 cycles, both knives reached my parameters for dull simultaneously. Real people could look up cut test number charts and be like, wow, steels like Maximate dominate the majority of steels listed. But in my own use, I get similar performance to steels far lower on those charts. The steel, the user, and the environment is the holy trinity of performance. 4 out of 44 units of work is roughly 9%, in which will be lowered down in future testing. Future testing will have 3 knives, and the carrot cutting will be 2 slices to every 30 sanding roll slices, roughly 6%. The third knife is referred to as the spike. Spikes are used to evaluate whether the testing setup and or equipment is operating at a functional capacity. Think of going through a metal detector with metal objects in your pockets or hands just to see if the alarm actually goes off. I'm leaning towards having 3 or 4 knives dedicated as specific spikes to cover the range of steels. Here is where you can use 14C when testing Z12 Ultra or K390. You could use Magnamax when testing ProCut or Nitro X7. You want something to be vastly different from the other 2 samples. What I'm hoping for is to provide more realistic data points for the average user. In a few days, I will update my thread on the Spyderco forum. My testing is all journaled on Instagram for anyone who's curious what my results actually are. YouTube really isn't my shtick. I just do it, I don't know, just for the fuck of it, I guess. But more testing to come. Still undecided what my next test will be with Z12. I'm leaning towards testing cold steel XHP along with it. Just, I don't know. Whatever I feel like is whatever I feel like. But yeah, that's the video. Hope that answers some questions and where the future of testing is actually headed towards.